सजीव अद्वैतम सावधूतम परिजन सहितम कृष्ण चैतन्य देवा श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सर्वमिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नित्यानंदे नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्रार्थ पीयूष सर्ववेद फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाढ़ सर्वलोकैक दृक्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिध्वांतोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवर्षक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तु मे मदेक बंधो मत्संगिन मद्गुरो मन्महाधन मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्य मदानंद नमोस्तु ते साधु साधुता दायिन नतनी चोक्षताकर नमुच्यत राशिन्मां प्रेम्णा हृत्कण्ठयोस्फुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Okay. If it gets cut off, then and it restarts, then we turn off all the videos. Okay. 1.13.19 to 30. प्रतिक्रियाण यस्येह कुतश्चित् कर्हिचित् प्रभो स एष भगवान् कालः सर्वेषां नः समागतः. This frightful situation cannot be remedied by anything or any person in this material world. My Lord, it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as eternal time, Kala, that has approached us all. Madhvacharya gives a quotation from Skanda Purana. The Kala is a name of Lord Vishnu. Another meaning of the word Kala is all the modes of that which reveals, which manifests all the modes of material nature. Nanu tat pratikarah kriyatam. So why can't some remedy be taken up against this destructive force of time? Kim nirgamanena. Why should I have to leave this place? Anticipating that Dhritarashtra would be thinking these thoughts, Vidura speaks the current verse. Traha pratikriya iti. Sarvesham iti yaih pratikartavyam tesham api ityarthaha. There's no remedy for destruction coming about by the force of time, because it is the Lord's own arrangement. The idea is made more clear by Sri Baladev Vidyabhushana. Anugraheva sthitva bhayam pratikartavyam. Why can't I just stay at home and neutralize this danger that has come about? No, it cannot be. Because time overcomes everyone who tries to neutralize it. Tathacha virajya resha bhajanat tannivrittirthivavaha. The implication is, so you must accept vairagya, virakti. You must leave home and you must engage in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Then you can get freed from the clutches of eternal time. There is no superior power which can check the cruel hands of death. No one wants to die, however acute one's bodily sufferings may be. Even in these days of so-called scientific advancement of knowledge, there is no remedial measure either for old age or for death. Old age is the notice of the arrival of time served by arrival of death by cruel time. and no one can refuse to accept either summon calls or the supreme judgment of eternal time. This is explained before the Dhritarashtra, because he might order Vidura to find out some remedial measure for the imminent fearful situation, as Dhritarashtra had ordered many times before. Before Vidura was so ordered, however, he informed Dhritarashtra that there was no remedial measure by anyone or from any source in this material world, and there is no such thing in the material world. And because there is no such thing in the material world, death is identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as it is said by the Lord Himself in the Bhagavad Gita 9.19. Death cannot be checked by anyone or from any source within this material world. Hiranyakashipu wanted to be immortal and underwent a severe type of penance by which the whole universe trembled. And Brahma himself approached him to dissuade Hiranyakashipu from such a severe type of penance. Hiranyakashipu asked Brahma to award him the blessings of immortality, but Brahma said that he himself was subject to death even in the topmost planet. So how could he award him the benediction of immortality? So there is death even in the topmost planet of this universe. And what to speak of other planets, which are far, far inferior in quality to Brahmaloka, the residing planet of Brahma. Wherever there is the influence of eternal time, there is this set of tribulations, namely birth, disease, old age, and death. And all of them are invincible. One thing is, Prabhupada never minces words. Prabhupada does not present things in a very positive manner. Sometimes there are there are devotees saying that we should all speak very positively, we should encourage everyone. I personally think that these people are most probably from some depressed background. Otherwise, why would, because there's nothing so great about this world. Of course, you can argue that no, look at all the bright things in life. Look at all the nice things in life. Why do you have to be so pessimistic and only keep focusing on the dark things in life? If you look at all the dark things, it means that you have a dark heart. But if you just look at it very neutrally, then you can see that death is something that cannot be avoided. There was a documentary, I remember, made by some American on the prodigies of the world, child geniuses. So he went through Wikipedia, found out a list of prodigies. Then he actually traveled to different places. And he met a prodigy, I think in Singapore or Malaysia, CEO of a company, 9-year-old boy, extremely intelligent. So he asked him, there are different questions he's asking. And one question that he asked is, can you say for sure what is going to happen your company next year or something like that? Something. And then the boy says, there's only one thing we know that is going to happen for sure. All of us will die. So that is that prodigy's wisdom. Everybody is going to die. Nobody is going to live. This is a common fact. But we still make, but if we contrast it with the reality, we're dealing with it as if it means nothing. Prabhupada actually said the reason why in modern society they try to shamelessly enjoy, I'm paraphrasing, is because they think there is no afterlife where they will have to face the consequences of their activities in this life. Even if you don't accept reincarnation, like in Christianity, they believe that you will be taken to heaven. Actually, you'll be taken to some place where you'll be judged. And then the good ones will go to heaven, the bad ones will go to hell. But you'll have to face the consequence of what you have done in this life. So people don't believe that. They don't believe that one has to experience the consequence of the activities that they have to do, that they have done in this life. which is the reason why they think that simply just go on enjoying. But while you're enjoying, don't disturb others. That's all. But this is a very unsustainable program, because everybody is caught up in various impulses. 20. येन चैवापि पन्नोऽयं प्राणैः प्रियतमैरपि जनः सद्यो वियुज्येत किं उतान्यैर्धनादिभिः. Whoever is under the influence of supreme Kala, eternal time, must surrender his most dear life, and what to speak of other things such as wealth, honor, children, land, and home. Katham dhanadi viyogas sotham shakyaha atha ahai yena cheti. But how can I tolerate separation from my wealth and so on? No, but one has to surrender. Anyone who is grasped, anyone who's under the clutches of Kala Shakti will have to face this. Yena mrityu rupena kalena. Kala and mrityu are considered synonyms in Vedic literature. Time is death. Death is time. So whenever we talk of time, we are talking of the destructive force of time. It's not just some passive parameter we see in a clock. What we see in a clock is just an indication of the movement of time. A great Indian scientist, busy in the plan-making business, was suddenly called by invincible eternal time while going to attend a very important meeting of the planning commission. And he had to surrender his life, wife, children, house, land, wealth, etc. During the political upsurge in India and its division into Pakistan and Hindustan, so many rich and influential Indians had to surrender life, property, and honor due to the influence of time. And there are hundreds and thousands of examples like that all over the world, all over the universe, which are all effects of the influence of time. Therefore, the conclusion is that there is no powerful living being within the universe who can overcome the influence of time. Many poets have written verses lamenting the influence of time. In the Hindi belt also, about the influence of time.
But time is generally, if you say Kal, they understand that it's a mrityu. I mean,
so this kind of lamentation, tragedy poems are all written.
There must be, but in the older poems there are.
That is why the Western philosophers, they don't like not just Indian philosophy, Asian philosophy. They keep on criticizing, all you guys are so pessimistic, always saying this is wrong, that is wrong, this is suffering, that is suffering. Why don't you just enjoy whatever is good, whatever is okay, fine. No, there's a good side, there's a bad side. But why don't you just take the best of the worst? No, they won't even say worst, the best of what exists. But it is not sufficiently satisfactory. That is a fact. It is not sufficiently satisfactory. Whatever plans we make, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma are there to destroy it. Many devastations have overtaken the universes due to the influence of time, and no one could check them by any means. Even in our daily life, so many things come and go in which we have no hand, but we have to suffer or tolerate them without remedial measure. That is a result of time. There is a view that this idea is what has prevented India from progressing and becoming a global power. But actually, this is not pessimism, this is realism. It's just realistic. In fact, if you look at the literature which are realistic in perspective, novels which are realistic, novels, dramas, movies also, I'm very sure, they're all tragical or boring, one of the two. Either they're boring or they're tragedy. Because that is reality. That is reality. Specifically, the effect of death is devastating. Devastating. Mankind just tries its best to forget these things unnecessarily. But since reincarnation is not something very strange, it is a basic principle of cosmic justice. There are so many Western thinkers who have accepted that reincarnation is the most sensible explanation to the harsh realities of life. From that perspective, Dharma Artha Kama is millions of times superior to Artha Kama. The pursuit of Dharma Artha Kama is millions of times superior to the pursuit of Artha Kama. And the pursuit of moksha is millions of times superior to the pursuit of Dharma Artha Kama. What to speak of the pursuit of Vishuddha Krishna Prema. 21. Pitra Bhratri Sukritra Hatas Te Vigatam Vayam Atma Cha Jarayagrastha Paragyeham Upasase. Your father, brother, well-wishers, and sons are all dead and passed away. You yourself have expended the major portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity, and you are living in the home of another. Atra avasthanam atidainyam iti darshayam vairagyam utpadayati pitru bhratriti saptabhi. Your staying in this place is most wretched. So he points this out while awakening Dhritarashtra's sense of attachment in 7 verses beginning with the current verse. The king is reminded of his precarious condition, influenced by cruel time, and by his past experience. He should have been more intelligent to see what was going to happen to his own life. His father, Vichitravirya, died long ago when he and his younger brothers were all little children, and it was due to the care and kindness of Bhishmadev that they were properly brought up. Then again, his brother Pandu died also. Then in the battle of Kurukshetra, his 100 sons and his grandsons all died, along with all other well-wishers like Bhishmadev, Dronacharya, Karna, and many other kings and friends. So he had lost all men and money, and now he was living at the mercy of his nephew, whom he had put into troubles of various types. And despite all these reverses, he thought that he would prolong his life more and more. Vidura wanted to point out to Dhritarashtra that everyone has to protect himself by his action and the grace of the Lord. One has to execute his duty faithfully, depending for the result on the supreme authority. No friend, no children, no father, no brother, no state, and no one else can protect a person who is not protected by the Supreme Lord. One should therefore seek the protection of the Supreme Lord, and the human form of life is meant for seeking that protection. He was warned of his precarious conditions more and more by the following words. As Prabhupada will point out, this is typical. This is not a strange situation. As we all approach old age, and we start experiencing old age, then we will also understand this. It is quite annoying that when we realize that the world does not provide sufficient facility to keep us satisfied. So as we grow older and older, the body doesn't cooperate, the mind doesn't cooperate, people don't cooperate. Of course, we ourselves become unnecessarily annoying also. So at least in Varnashama Dharma, there's a proper arrangement. Danavir Maharaj, he used to say that a man is supposed to, a spiritual, an intelligent man, is supposed to, first of all, become a brahmachari, live in an ashrama, experience brahmacharya. And then if he wants, and most of them do, become a grihastha And then afterwards, he has to become a vanaprastha, then he has to become a sannyas. So he said, this is not a very strange way of thinking, because this is a contrast to Western civilization where there is no sense of vanaprastha sannyas or even brahmacharya. So then he gave an analogy. He said, just like we wake up in the morning, first of all, we get ready. We pass stool, we take bath, we brush our teeth, and so on. We get ready. We get ready. And then afterwards, we go to office or work, wherever. We start our work. And then after the work is over, then you retire. You wind up. You wind up, you come back home. Then afterwards, nighttime, you go to sleep. So he said, so you look at one full lifetime. This is what is actually happening. Brahmacharya is getting ready. Grihastha life is what is generally considered to be tangible life. I want to do something tangible in the world. That delusion is well taken care of when you enter into the Garhastya situation, Grihastha situation. And then one is supposed to wind up. One is supposed to wind up. One is supposed to retire from that. And then one should take sannyas, where it is all, it's just zero material activity, only engagement in spiritual activities. So it is not a very strange way of thinking. 22. Antah puraiva vadhiro manda pragyasya sampratam vishirna danto mandagni charaga kapamudvahan. You have been blind from your very birth, and recently you have become hard of hearing. Your memory is shortened and your intelligence is disturbed. Your teeth are loose, your liver is defective, and you're coughing up mucus. This verse is not read by everyone. Symptoms of old age, which had already developed in Dhritarashtra, were all one after another pointed out to him as warning that death was nearing very quickly. And still he was foolishly carefree about his future. The signs pointed out by Vidura in the body of Dhritarashtra were signs of apakshaya, or dwindling of the material body before the last stroke of death. The body is born, develops, stays, creates other bodies, dwindles, and then vanishes. But foolish men want to make a permanent settlement of the perishable body and think that their estate, children, society, country, etc., will give them protection. With such foolish ideas, they become overtaken by such temporary engagements and forget altogether that they must give up this temporary body and take a new one, again to arrange for another term of society, friendship, and love, again to perish ultimately. They forget their permanent identity and become foolishly active for impermanent occupations, forgetting altogether their prime duty. Saints and sages like Vidura approach such foolish men to awaken them to the real situation. But they take such sadhus and saints as parasites of society. And almost all of them refuse to hear the words of such sadhus and saints, although they welcome show-bottle sadhus and so-called saints who can satisfy their senses. Vidur was not a sadhu to satisfy the ill-gotten sentiment of the Dhritarashtra. He was correctly pointing out the real situation of life and how one can save oneself from such catastrophes. 1 minute. Got it. 23. Generally, this is what they think. They think that sadhus and saints are parasites of society. I remember there was one person a scientist in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. Um, I heard this from Nandaputra Prabhu, who was the vice president of ISKCON Coimbatore. So when he got to know that within ISKCON, there are a number of people who have graduated out of professional courses and become brahmacharis and all that. Then he criticized and complained. So much of national resources have been wasted. So much of scientific resources have been wasted. These people could have contributed to the space age. They could have contributed to development of emerging technologies. They could have done all these things. Instead, they simply put on all these robes, ancient robes, and they go and beg for, they go sell some book and they go and beg, please become a life member. And what is this? Why these people are doing all this? These are simply parasites. These people should be destroyed. We should make it illegal for these kind of events from taking place. But the devotees, they also explained, they were also highly, they're quite, materially also, they were quite qualified. So they retorted back saying that what is wrong? Anyway, these people are doing so many things which have nothing to do with their education. So then what is wrong if one actually becomes a good person, even from the material perspective, a person who accepts the principles of satyam, shaucham, tapah, daya, gives up meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, gambling, promotes that along with chanting of the names of Godhead. What is wrong with that? It is not, because when people become moral, even their material activities are tempered. They're not, they don't become violent towards each other. Achyutanam Prabhu.
Prabhu, so it's like almost a process that people will think like this and they will take sadhus or saints in this manner. So this can be changed, or it's like, okay, it cannot be
No,
changed,
we
you have to
cannot
live.
change it. We cannot change it. There will always be people who spit at us. There will be people who glorify. There, what we are not supposed to. There will always be people who condemn us. There will always be some people who think that you are some unbelievable superhuman being, and there are plenty of people who think we are in between. It's also annoying to know that there are also people who don't care. There are people who simply don't care. They don't care whether you're great, they're not great, whatever the hell, man, just don't disturb me. I'm going on in my life. That's all. That also exists. We take to Krishna consciousness so that we can progress in Krishna consciousness. And that too, a missionary life, full-fledged missionary life, offers a very good opportunity to engage in Navavidha Bhakti. So it is definitely challenging. It is definitely difficult. It is not easy. It is not for the weak-hearted. It is meant for the strong-hearted. But it is worth it. It is certainly worth it. There are certain endeavors, pursuits, which are so great that even failures are considered glorious. So this is like that. 23. Aho mahiyasi janto jivitasha yatha bhavan bhimapavarjitam pindam adatte grihapalavat. Alas, how powerful are the hopes of a living being to continue his life. Verily, you are living just like a household dog and are eating remnants of food given by Bhima. Yena putra hata, tena bhimena dattam pindam grihapala iva, grihapala shwa. Like a dog You're eating food given by Bhima, who has actually killed your sons. Apavarjitam. Apavarjita has a sense of food that you don't take and you set it aside for the dog. So it is basically giving some second-class food. A sadhu should never flatter kings or rich men to live comfortably at their cost. Now, there are very gross ways of flattering people. There are very subtle ways of doing it also. We have seen all different shades. Because there are some quote-unquote sadhus who never ask for money. But they don't mind if you give donation in kind. And their speech will be in the border. It will not criticize actually. But if you don't criticize, they don't consider you a sadhu, so they have to criticize. That also they'll do. Just on the border. Just on the border. And this is for long-term donations in kind. So if you go on dealing like this, over the days, weeks, months, years, decades, long term, then after 25 years, 30 years, then that entire family will fall at your feet. For 25, 30 years, you make sure that you have enough infrastructure. And then that investment will keep coming. They'll be with you. They'll be your non-transferable emotional assets. That means even if you're not part of any institution or you're part of one particular institution, you leave that institution also, they are with you. So this is all smart thinking. So that kind of people are also there. But, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Prabhupada, they had no such plans for anything like that. We are doing that which is good for ourselves. Our own minds don't like what our intelligence tells, but still we are convincing our minds to accept it. Same way, we should try to convince others' minds to accept it also. That is the whole point. We should do that which will strengthen our intelligence. Even the non-devotees understand that the mind is a monkey. They can do all kinds of unpredictable things at all kinds of under strange circumstances. And then afterwards, you yourself will lament. They know this very well. A sadhu is to speak to the householders about the naked truth of life so that they may come to their senses about the precarious life in material existence. Dhritarashtra is a typical example of an attached old man in household life. He had become a pauper in the true sense, yet he wanted to live comfortably in the house of the Pandavas, of whom Bhima especially is mentioned, because personally he killed two prominent sons of Dhritarashtra, namely Duryodhana and Dushasana. Actually, Bhima killed all of the Kauravas. He's the only one who killed the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. Everybody else was killed by Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva, etc. But Bhima is the only one who killed all of them. But of them, these two are pet sons of Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra is not a good man. Karna is not a good man also. And certainly Ravana is not a good man. In some psychotic regions, they worship these people. These two sons were very much dear to him for their notorious and nefarious activities. See, Dhritarashtra is a gangster in the mind. And these two people were gangsters in reality. And Bhima is particularly pointed out because he killed these two pet sons. Why was Dhritarashtra living there at the house of the Pandavas? Because he wanted to continue his life comfortably, even at the risk of all humiliation. So this is something that we notice. Kala Shakti makes us humble through humiliation. Not very palatable, actually. It is better to increasingly chant Hare Krishna and just forget about all these miseries. People who are in situations like this should just try to move on in Krishna consciousness. If need be, by changing their place, go to the Dham. This sense of continuing one's life indicates that a living being is eternally a living entity, uh, an eternal living entity, Jivatma, spirit soul, and does not want to change his bodily habitation. The foolish man does not know that a particular term of bodily existence is awarded to him to undergo a term of imprisonment. And the human body is awarded after many, many births and deaths as a chance for self-realization to go back home, back to Godhead. But persons like Dhritarashtra try to make plans to live here in a comfortable position with profit and interest, or they do not see things as they are. Dhritarashtra is blind and continues to hope to save comfortably in the midst of all kinds of reverses of life. A sadhu like Vidura is meant to awaken such blind persons and thus help them go back to Godhead where life is eternal. Once going there, no one wants to come back to this material world of miseries. You can just imagine how responsible a task is entrusted to a sadhu like Mahatma Vidura, Achyutanam Prabhu. And there is a question in the question box. Achyutanam Prabhu.
Prabhu, this mattering that I've seen that like devotees also and personally also I experienced that when we meet a person, big man, like rich person, he is having big ego. So he may not like to hear the things which we have to offer, but he has this heart of giving out. And that time I also have experienced that sometimes this tendency is there, कि ठीक है उससे like take money from him, no need to preach, later we'll see. So how far is this good, or it should not be done, or it should be done? Like at least we think somehow he is giving money, he may get purified, or is it our greed that I want money, that's why I'm not preaching to him? Like what's the thin line here?
I want to do a psychoanalysis of what why his official quote unquote preacher will do under these circumstances. Will not do that. But I'll simply say that it is our duty to do that which is
Prabhu,
beneficial to the people.
your voice is a bit unclear.
My voice is unclear, so it's time to turn off the videos. Okay. Now let's hope for the best.
I don't know, it's problem from my side or not, but still it is little unclear. Now also it is not coming clearly.
Hare Krishna. There is something wrong. This thing of doing means that the connection is bad or something wrong. Something like that. You don't hear me?
We can hear, Prabhu, but still it's unclear to me. I don't know about other devotees.
Unclear.
Okay, get this thing out and turn the light. Turn this thing away. Hear me? Can you hear me?
No, Prabhu.
Nothing. Okay, wait. Hear me now? Am I audible?
Yes.
Right.
Still that glitch is coming.
It's coming. I don't know. Let me just put the blame on your connection. Can anyone hear anything now? Am I audible?
Audible
Yes,
with
sir.
little unclear voice, so it's fine. We can understand you.
Says my internet connection is unstable.
Are your doors shut?
Let me shut the door.
No, please open the door. If your door is shut, then network does not come properly in your room.
Yeah, I opened the door.
And
I
then
opened
try.
the door. Okay, coming back to this question. So, due to Krishna consciousness, Krishna consciousness is Vairagya Vidya and is a Bhakti Yoga. So, it is our duty to give that. So, if hesitate to do that, it means that have determination to execute Krishna consciousness. But I told earlier, most probably because we have a desire to make members of society happy. This is
Prabhu, I'm very sorry, but half of the things are going above my head.
changed. So we are trying to do something. It's not something. So when it moves, what does it mean? It means to be charged. When it moves, what does it mean? When it charged, it moves, the things are not lost. Because moving, it was, now it's not. Now we changed it. That's what it's not. So what does it mean when it moves? It could be discharged, not that. Therefore, this is charged, that means not completely charged. Seems. Well. Now, is it audible?
Same like before, Prabhu.
Same like before. How? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Same like before, Prabhu.
Anyway, it's all recorded. Okay. So then, anyway, it's our duty to just beneficial. It's our duty to do that which is beneficial to others. And Krishna will give us the intelligence to do that. There is uh, there's a right time when you say the right thing. That Krishna will help you to understand how to do it. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Here is a question in the chat box. How to make the heart strong? Through appropriate association. Okay. Let's resume 24. गौरवदाराश्च दूषिताः कृतं क्षेत्रं धनं येषां तद्दत्ते रसदुष्कियत्. There's no need to live a degraded life. There's no need to live a degraded life and subsist on the charity of those whom you try to kill by arson and poison. You also insulted their wife and usurped away their kingdom and wealth. The question is, literally, actually, there's a question. What is the need? What is the need to do all these things? What is the need to live, subsist on the charity of those whom you try to kill and insult? The idea is there's no need for this kind of a life. What are we going to gain by this? The system of national religion sets aside a part of one's life completely for the purpose of self-realization and attainment of salvation in the human form of life. That is a routine division of life. But persons like Dhritarashtra want to stay home even at their very ripened age, even in a degraded condition, accepting charity from enemies. This is around 50% here. Okay, that's great news. He wanted to point out this anomaly to his brother and impress upon him that it was better to die like his sons than accept such humiliating charity. He wanted to point this out and impress upon him that it was better to die like his sons than accept such humiliating charity. 5,000 years ago, there was one Dhritarashtra, but at the present moment, there are Dhritarashtras in every home. Politicians especially do not retire from political activities unless they are dragged by the cruel hand of death or killed by some opposing element. To stick to family life up to the end of one's human life is the grossest type of degradation. And there is an absolute need for the vigorous to educate such Dhritarashtras even at the present moment. तस्यापि तवदेकोऽयं तस्य जिजीविषो परित्यनिच्छत्तो जीर्णो जरया वाससि इव. Despite your unwillingness to die and your desire to live, even at the cost of honor and prestige, your miserly body will certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. Chakravarti Thakur gives a very interesting remark here. He focuses on the word vasasi. Vasasi iva. This vasasi refers to two clothes. It is in dual number. Like the Antariya and Uttariya. This is an indication that both the bodies will become Jirna. The Sukshma Sharira and the Sthula Sharira. Anthya Vachuriyadikam Sufarevasya Jirnatvam Lakshanam. Blind, being deaf, and so on are characteristics of the subtle body. One Palidadikam Sufarevasya Cha. And wrinkles and so on. They are indications of deterioration of the gross body. The word Upanasya Jivisho. You desire life, and who is miserly are significant. There are two classes of men. One is called the Kripana, and the other is called the Brahmana. The Kripana, or the miserly man, has no estimation of his material body. But the Brahmana has a true estimation of himself and the material body. The Kripana, having a wrong estimation of his material body, wants to enjoy sense gratification with his utmost strength. And even in old age, he wants to become a young man by medical treatment or otherwise. The Drakshas are those chosen as a Kripana because without any estimation of his material body, he wants to live at any cost. Vidvan is trying to open his eyes to see that he cannot live more than his term and that he must prepare for death. Since death is inevitable, why should he accept such a humiliating religion for living? It is better to go the right path, even at the risk of death. Human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries of material existence. Life should be so regulated that one can achieve the desired goal. Rashtra, due to his wrong conception of life, had already spoiled 80% of his achieved energy. So in due him, he utilized the remaining days of this miserly life for the ultimate good. Such a life is called miserly because one cannot properly utilize the assets of the human form of life. However, good luck does such a miserly man think a self-realized soul like Dugara and by his instruction get rid of the machines of material existence. 6. ततस्वार्थं इमं देहं विरक्तोक्तबन्धनः अविद्यात् गतिर्जह्यात् स वै धीर उदाहृतः. He who has not properly utilized this material body is called undisturbed. If he goes to an unknown place and freed from all obligations, indifferently quits his body. So Dhira, right about Dhira, why did we talk about Dhira here? He anticipates. So who is a sober person? Who is a Dhira? That is what the Shodharma Shunya. When the body's fame, engagement in piety and so on, it's all over. When one is Mukta Bandhana, freed from all obligations, also indicates that one has given up his abhiman, his conceit, and he has gone to some unknown place. That person is sober because he personally tolerates the distresses that have come about, and he will attain liberation. That is what सन्यासी परस्तु सद्विवेकेन भगवच्चरणतया सन्यासी इति तारतम्यं ज्ञेयम्. I think that this is about an Atura sannyasi, one who becomes a sannyasi in great distress. But when one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead with spiritual discrimination, that is a proper sannyasi. That's a gradation that has to be noted here. That is what some ultimate Krishna Bhajanatya Shokumohan Jaradi Vyakulam. One who is absorbed in the Moha, Jara, and so on. Because he is not engaged in devotional service unto Lord Krishna. Krishna Bhajana Kriya. That person is referred to here. But even that person, he should actually give up his body, devotional service to the Lord. Then he said, Hira, should go to some holy place and die. Catuspathi, a nice explanation. Without engaging in devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has not attained the fruit of the body, one has not attained the result of having been given the human body. Jakyat, Putrachak Punyakshekro, Bhagavantam Smaran Devam Yastya Jyotsajhiraha. So the person who remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead and gives up his body in some Punyakshetra, he is a Dhira, sober person. Dhira is important for us. Rasa Pancharhyai, the Shruti Phala, the result of hearing Rasa Pancharhyai is expressed in a particular verse. Kriyatam Vajo Vikam Chavishna. And there it mentions that a Dhira who has faith and who fears Rasa Lila will become free from lust, which is the disease of the heart. But the point that struck me was, it will act on a person who is a Dhira. So I was always thinking about, is there any place in the Bhagavatam where Dhira itself is defined? And here you can see Dhira is defined. This is the Dhira. Narottam Thakur, a great devotee. Of course, persons who are more advanced than this will also come under the category of Dhira. It's also there. Narottam Thakur, a great devotee and Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava sect, has sung, my Lord, I've simply wasted my life having obtained the human body. I am neglected to worship your Lordship, and therefore I have willingly drunk poison. In other words, the human body is especially meant for cultivating knowledge of devotional service to the Lord, without which life becomes full of anxieties and miserable conditions. Therefore, one who has spoiled his life without such cultural activities is advised to leave home without informing his friends and relatives, and being thus freed from all obligations of family, society, country, etc., give up the body at some unknown destination so that others may not know where and how he has met his death. Dhira means one who is not disturbed even when there is severe provocation. Usually, a man cannot give up a comfortable family life due to his affectionate relation with wife and children. Self-realization is obstructed by such undue affection for family. And if anyone is at all able to forget such a relation, he is called undisturbed or Dhira. This is, however, the path of renunciation based on a frustrated life. But stabilization of such renunciation is possible only by association with bona fide saints and self-realized souls, by which one can be engaged in the loving devotion service of the Lord. Sincere surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is made possible by awakening the transcendental sense of service. This is made possible by association with pure devotees of the Lord. Rasa was lucky enough to have a brother whose very association was a source of liberation for his frustrated life. 27. Yes, Vakat Parate Veda Jata Nirveda Atmavan Kritva Prabhajetsan Narottamaha. He is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands, either by himself or by hearing from others, the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of God residing within his heart. Narottamastu Tatah Prageva Kritiparikarah. And Narottama has already utilized these challenges to spiritual life, full-fledged spiritual life. Swakat, Swateva, Parata, Paropadeshataha, Va. Either he has understood it by himself or he has heard it from others. So here we have, previously was a Dhira Sannyasi, this is a Narottama Sannyasi. Dhanam कृत्वा वनिज्ञातीति वत् वनिज्ञाति कृत्वा हरिं प्राप्तुमिति भावः. Just as a merchant keeps wealth in his heart and goes, means he's always thinking of how to become rich, richer. So like that, this person has Hari in his heart, the personality of Godhead. He keeps it within his heart. That means he has the desire to attain Lord Hari. आतुर सन्यासी धीरः भक्ति विवेकी नरोत्तमः इति भेदः. So the one who has discriminate knowledge about the science of devotional service to the Supreme Lord is a narottama. Whereas the atura sannyasi, the sannyasi who has accepted initiation out of frustration, he's a dhira. But still, dhira is still okay. It's not. This is better than that. Narottamastu gurunaiva tritparjanatva aritah paropadesha atma vivikatma nishtha atmavan. Distinct understanding about the soul and the supreme soul. Tantu prayo narattamo nasi vivavaha. But you are almost not a narattama. You can only become a dhira. That is the idea. There are three classes of transcendentalists, namely the dhira, or the one who is not disturbed by being away from family association. One in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi by frustrated sentiment, and a sincere devotee of the Lord who awakens God consciousness by hearing and chanting, leaves home depending completely on the personality of God who resides in his heart. So it looks like Prabhupada has distinguished even further between the Atura sannyasi and the dhira. In each case, we understand that the dhira may not have accepted sannyas, but he is sober enough. Different classification. The idea is that the renounced order of life, after a frustrated life of sentiment in the material world, may be the stepping stone on the path of self-realization. So if you go by this classification, then initially one becomes an Atura sannyasi, then he becomes a Dhira sannyasi, then he becomes a Narottama sannyasi, or a Bhakti-vaibhava sannyasi. But the real perfection of the path of liberation is attained when one is practiced. It depends fully on the Supreme Personality of God who lives in everyone's heart as Paramatma. One can live in the darkest jungle, alone, in the phone, but the steadfast devotee knows very well that he is not alone. The Supreme Personality of God is with him, but protect the sincere devotee in a circumstance. One should therefore practice devotional service at home, hearing and chanting the holy name, quality, form, pastimes, entourage, etc., in association with pure devotee. And this practice will help one awaken God consciousness in proportion to one's sincerity of purpose. One who desires material benefit by such devotional activities can never depend on the Supreme Personality of God, although he sits in everyone's heart. Nor does the Lord give any direction to persons who worship him for material gain. Such materialistic devotees may be blessed by the Lord with material benefits, but they cannot reach the stage of the first-class human being as above mentioned. In fact, one can even classify this further. First stage being Atura sannyasi, then a dhira, then a bhakti viveki, then a narottama. If you take a narottama to refer to a paramahamsa, paramahamsa is also a sannyasi. There are many examples of such sincere devotees in the history of the world, especially in India, and they are our guides on the path of self-realization. Mahatma Vidvan is one such great devotee of the Lord, and we should all try to follow in his lotus footsteps for self-realization. 28. अथो दीचीं विषम यातु स्वैरज्ञातं गतिर्भवान् हितोर्वा प्रायशः कालः पुंसां गुणविकर्षणः Please therefore leave for the north immediately, without letting your relatives know. For soon that time will approach, which will diminish the good qualities of men. Now, do not become a Narottama, so I will become a Dhira. The time Kali is approaching, which will diminish the good qualities of men, like patience, tolerance, compassion. Without letting your relatives, such as Pandavas, without letting Pandu sons know. One can compensate for a life of frustration by becoming a Dhira or leaving home for good without communicating with the relatives. People advised his elder brother to adopt this way without delay, because very quickly the age of Kali was approaching. Conditioned soul is already degraded by the Dhira association. And still, in the Kali Yuga, the good qualities of a man will deteriorate to the lowest standard. He was advised to leave home before Kali Yuga approached, because the atmosphere which they were created by his valuable instructions on the facts of life would fade away due to the influence of the age which was fast approaching. To become a Narottama or a first-class human being depending completely on the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is not possible for any ordinary man. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.28 that a person who is completely relieved of all taints of sinful acts can alone depend on the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So one who is freed from all sinful reactions, only such a person can engage in Krida Bhakti, which means uh, uninterrupted, engagement in Krishna consciousness. Nishtha. Dhritarashtra, accused Nishtha. Dhritarashtra was advised by Vidvan is to become a Dhira in the beginning. It was impossible for him to become a sannyasi or a Narottama. Persistently endeavoring on the line of self-realization helps a person rise to the conditions of a Narottama from the stage of a Dhira. The Dhira stage is attained after prolonged practice of the yoga wisdom. But by the grace of Buddha, one can attain the stage immediately, simply by willing to adopt the means of the Dhira stage, which is the preparatory stage for sannyas. The sannyas stage is the preparatory stage of Paramahamsa, of the first great devotee of the Lord. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati he also has a commentary on Bhagavatam, just that because it is extensive, I didn't know whether to bring it up or not. Occasionally only comments, but his comments are extensive. I didn't know, I was not confident whether there will be time to deal with it, so I left it. 29. Evam Raja Vidurena Nijena Pajya Chakshurbodhita Aja Nidha Chitva Sveshu Sneka Pashandradhin No Nishchatkamam Bhakti Sandarshitadva. Thus, Maharaj Dhritarashtra, the scion of the family of Ajamila, firmly convinced by introspective knowledge, Pragya, broke at once the strong network of familial affection by his resolute determination. Thus, he immediately left home to set out on the path of liberation, as directed by his younger brother, Vidvan.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. True, when Kali Yuga exactly started, like here also we see that Kali Yuga is about to start in this discussion. It comes last
No,
sloka.
the effect of Kali Yuga will begin after Krishna's departure. The exact time when Kali began was during the 18 days of Kurukshetra, one particular day. I don't have that information right off my head right now, but it is during those 18 days. That's when Kali Yuga officially started. However, because Lord Krishna was on the planet, the effect of Kali Yuga was not manifested. Wherever Krishna is, there will be dharma. So that effect was not manifested. But Vidura is indicating that the effect of Kali Yuga is going to manifest because Krishna is going to disappear from this world.
Yes. But still, we read in one sloka that Vidura didn't tell about the disappearance of the Yadu dynasty.
Yes, he did not tell. Even here, he is not telling.
So they already disappeared, no? Like when he's telling this sloka, so after he came from.
No. They're going to disappear. They're going to disappear. That chronology, Madhvacharya has worked it out. It was some years later.
Okay, but in one sloka it was told that he told everything about his tour of different places, but he didn't tell about the departure of Krishna and Yadavas.
So yes, Madhvacharya says about the departure of the Yadavas means about the imminent departure of Yadavas. About the departure of the Yadavas that is going to take place. But he knew that it is going to happen in a very tragic manner.
Okay.
Pragya Chakshuti. Pragya Chakshuti means blind. Dradamnaha Chittadardhyat. He became firm because he resolved, he convinced his mind. Bandhamokshayor Margo Yasya Saha, because his brother had shown him the pathway of bondage and liberation. Bodhitaha, he was instructed. Muktiyarthaha, he was instructed to proceed towards liberation. Bhakti Mishra Jnana Upadeshena Ityarthaha. He was instructed on Bhakti Mishra Jnana, Vishnu Bhakti Mishra Jnana, philosophical knowledge mixed with the Hari Bhakti. Vidyachakshuhu Andhaha Bodhitaha Mukti Phalam Hari Bhaktim Grahitaha. He was made to accept Hari Bhakti, aiming at liberation. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the great preacher of the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam, has stressed the importance of association with sadhus, pure devotees of the Lord. So when it says sadhu sangha, that sadhu refers to a pure devotee of Krishna. Does not refer to impure devotees of Krishna. He said even by a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can achieve all perfection. We are not ashamed to admit that this fact was experienced in our practical life. Were we not favored by His Divine Grace, Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, by our first meeting for a few minutes only, it would have been impossible for us to accept this mighty task of describing Srimad Bhagavatam in English. Without seeing him at that opportune moment, we could have become a very great business magnate, but never would we have been able to walk the path of liberation and be engaged in the factual service of the Lord under the instructions of His Divine Grace. And here is another practical example by the action of Vidura's association with Dhritarashtra. Maharaj Dhritarashtra was tightly bound in a network of material affinities related to politics, economy, and family attachment. And he did everything in his power to achieve so-called success by his success in his planned projects. But he was frustrated from the beginning to the end so far as his material activities were concerned. And yet, despite his life of failure, he achieved the greatest of all success in self-realization by the forceful instructions of a sadhu, a pure devotee of the Lord. The scriptures enjoin, therefore, that one should associate with sadhus only rejecting all other kinds of association. And by doing so, one will have ample opportunity to cheer the sadhus who can cut to pieces the bonds of illusory affection in the material world. Now, those who are interested in actual spiritual progress, they would like to submissively hear from bona fide sadhus. Otherwise, generally you get people who want to encourage you, who want to make you happy, who want to love you, and all these things. It is a fact that the material world is a great illusion because everything appears to be a tangible reality, but at the next moment evaporates like the dashing foam of the sea or a cloud in the sky. A cloud in the sky undoubtedly appears to be a reality because it rains, and due to rains, so many temporary green things appear, but in the ultimate issue, everything disappears. Namely, the cloud, rain, and green vegetation, all in due course. But the sky remains, and the varieties of sky or luminaries also remain forever. Similarly, the absolute truth, which is compared to the sky, remains eternally, and the temporary cloud-like illusion comes and goes away. Foolish living beings are attracted by the temporary cloud, but intelligent men are more concerned with the eternal sky, with all its variegatedness. 30. Patim prayantam subalasya putri pativrata chanu jagama sadhvi Himalayam nyastad danda praharsham manasvinamiva sat sampraharaha. The gentle and chaste Gandhari, who was the daughter of King Subala of Kandahar or Gandhar, followed her husband, seeing that he was going to the Himalaya mountains, which are the delight of those who have accepted the staff of the renounced order, just as a good lashing from the enemy is the delight of great fighters. This is why I keep saying, those who are moving towards a life of nirapeksha sadhana, for them, the difficulties that come are all quite acceptable. Just like one who wants to become renounced, he accepts the difficulties. With great happiness, actually. Suvalasya putri Gandhari sadhvi sushila. Sushila means good character. Gandhari Devi was a lady of good character. Morally, from the moral point of view, she was having a very good character. Himalayam prayantam patim anujagama. She followed her husband towards the Himalayas. Nanu katham sasu kumari kimadi dukha bahulam himavantam gata. How is it that she is a very tender lady? How is it that she went towards Himalaya, which is filled with ice, snow, and similar miserable conditions? Ataha nyastadandana praharsho yasmin stam dukkamapi kesham chit praharsha hetur bhavati ityatra dashtanta. Here is the example that sometimes distress is also a cause of great delight for some. Manasvinam shuranam yuddhe sams tivrah sampraharo yatha. Just as a fierce lashing is a matter of great delight for heroes in a war. Padhantare sat sampraharam yuddham yatheti. Manasvinam sat sampraharam yuddham yatha. That meaning is almost the same only. It appears instead of Iva sat sampraharam in some manuscripts. Even if these great fighters have a very tender body, still they like it. Yatha ahave swargananda anuragaha tatha mokshananda anuragaha Himalaye pravartakaha iti bhavaha. So just as the attraction for the superior bliss of Swarga is the impelling force for these warriors. Like that, the attraction towards the bliss of liberation is the impelling force in Himalaya for such renounced persons. Achyutanam Prabhu.
Prabhu, can these difficulties, like delighting in difficulties, does it also mean that when I am facing problems in my spiritual life, anarthas and lust, so that time, like, does it mean that I should be delighted?
It means that one is not dejected. Just like when one goes for boxing match, he's not terrified, dejected, depressed and all that. If he's a boxer, it doesn't matter. You punch me twice, I'll punch you 4 times.
Okay.
Saubalini or Gandhari, daughter of King Subala and wife of King Dhritarashtra, was ideal as a wife devoted to her husband. The Vedic civilization especially prepares chaste and devoted wives, of whom Gandhari is one amongst many mentioned in history. Lakshmi ji, Sita Devi was also a daughter of a great king, but she followed her husband, Lord Ramachandra, into the forest. Similarly, as a woman, Gandhari could have remained at home or at her father's house. But as a chaste and gentle lady, she followed her husband without consideration. Instructions for the renounced order of life were imparted to Dhritarashtra by Vidura, and Gandhari was by the side of her husband. But he did not ask her to follow him because he was at that time fully determined, like a great warrior who faces all kinds of dangers in the battlefield. He was no longer attracted to so-called wife or relatives, and he decided to start alone. But as a chaste lady, Gandhari decided to follow her husband till the last moment. Maharaj Dhritarashtra accepted the order of Vanaprastha, and at this stage, the wife is allowed to remain as a voluntary servitor. But in the sannyas stage, no wife can stay with her former husband. A sannyasi is considered to be a dead man civilly, and therefore the wife becomes a civil widow without connection with her former husband. Maharaj Dhritarashtra did not deny his faithful wife, and she followed her husband at her own risk. The sannyasis accept a rod as a sign of the renounced order of life. There are 2 types of sannyasis. Those who follow the Mayavadi philosophy headed by Sripad Shankaracharya accept only 1 rod, Ekadanda. But those who follow the Vaishnavite philosophy accept 3 combined rods, Tridanda. The Madhya line, they also accept Ekadanda, but their understanding corresponds to the understanding of the Tridandi sannyasis, in the sense that they accept that the living entity is perpetually an eternal servant of Lord Vishnu as a spiritual servant, and we should utilize everything that we have in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Mayavadi sannyasis are known as Ekadandi Swamis, whereas the Vaishnava sannyasis are known as Tridandi Swamis, or more explicitly, Tridandi Goswamis, in order to be distinguished from the Mayavadi philosophers. The Ekadandi Swamis are mostly fond of the Himalayas, but the Vaishnava sannyasis are fond of Vrindavana and Puri. The Vaishnava sannyasis are Narottamas, whereas the Mayavadi sannyasis are Dhiras. Maharaj Dhritarashtra was advised to follow the Dhiras because at that stage it was difficult for him to become a Narottama. Okay, we'll stop with that. Ancha kalpatarubhyasya kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.